And when we were not distracted by the phone or the TikTok feed or something like that, chances are we were spending some deep time trying to solve some problems and understanding ourselves at a level that we just didn't have the terminology for. Right. So, the whole of Chinese medicine, we talk about qi, we talk about blood, we talk about these substances in our body. And, they go, oh, that's all made up. It's all nonsense. And no, what it was a brilliant, eloquent placeholder for physiological changes that they were observing
Yeah.
before they had, microscopes and x-rays and MRIs and Dopplers and CT scans and whatever else. To come up with that system is so eloquent, so refined, and they're not alone in that.
You're listening to Cold Press Conversations with Dr. Jewel White Williams, a lover of numbers, lists, and a good glass of cold pressed juice, who is sharing episodes each week to help you explore the back end of healthcare and health sciences. Where a lot of that grit is done, we'll dive into topics covering research, education, and clinical practices, as well as guest shows with other leaders in the field. Pull up a seat and let's dive into these amazing and game-changing conversations.
Hello, hello, hello. I am Dr. Jewel, and I am elated because as the host of Cold Press Conversations, I have an esteemed guest with me today. As you know, that Cold Press Conversations focuses on medical and education, and we call it entertainment. It's not really, but the reason we call it that way is because we're not offering you advice. We are just giving some information, informing you, and allowing you to take this information so that you can take it back to your PCP, your primary care physician, so you can have a discussion. Because there are alternative ways to have medicine, and there's sometimes we need to be informed about what's going on. And that's what's happening today. Y'all have to, okay, I'm elated because, when you're looking at the Olympics or you're looking at TV and you see these circles on people, you're like, what in the world happened? When it first started coming out and they started showing it because we had social media starting to bloom, people were like, oh my gosh, they're so bruised. What's going on? What's going on? And I knew at the time because I was reading it, it's called cupping. And that's what we're going to be discussing today. I am elated that I have Dr. Tom
Ingegno. Close.
Ingegno. Okay. Thank you so much. I apologize, but you know
No,
what?
no, it's fine. We'll all sit together. We'll do an Italian language class. I don't speak it, so
Oh,
we'll
yeah.
all learn it together. Then we'll go to Tuscany or something. It'll be a good time.
Oh, yes. Let's go. Let's go. I'm telling you, passport is ready. All
Yeah,
right. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to be a little partial. Excuse me. I do not sit in a regular chair. I sit in a ball. Um,
that's okay.
Yeah. So I do want to just say one thing. I'm a little partial right now because he is in my home state, Maryland. And I'm elated. He's in Baltimore. And the reason I'm saying this is because Baltimore is a huge place and people travel up and down the East Coast to meet various people. And they often tend to sometimes go to physicians that they know will benefit them. People will travel to get what they need. If you want it, you'll get it. And so that's the reason I want to let everyone know about Charm City in Baltimore. But before I go any further, I've got to give you just a little insight. This gentleman here is one of the best-selling authors of the cupping book, Unlocking the Secrets of Ancient Healing. Dr. Tom owns and operates Charm City Integrative Health, a multifaceted clinic, New York Times bestseller, and futurist David Hole called The Future of Medicine. His clinic provides a multidimensional approach to reducing inflammation, improving circulation, regulating the immune system to help people thrive. In addition to nearly a quarter century of clinical experience, Dr. Tom has taught at 2 universities of East Asian medicine and served as the chair of the Maryland Board of Acupuncture. You heard that right, the chair of the Maryland Board of Acupuncture. He was the director of acupuncture for a chain of wellness centers in the Mid Atlantic. He's been featured in both consumer and professional media, spreading his message of health using modern research, traditional practices, and humor to make complex theories and treatments understandable. His professional passion is to help patients and like minded practitioners develop a no nonsense practice to allow people to maximize their health. Now, Jose, before I go any further, when I went to his site, I got to say something. He is impressive. He has made it for best acupuncturist in Baltimore, not only 2022, 2021, 22, 23, 24. You heard it. 4 years in a row for Baltimore acupuncture, best acupuncturist out there. And he just got another award. Okay, Dr. Tom, sorry, I got to tell him because if you're in
We
Baltimore,
nominated. We nominated. We don't know the results yet, but I
okay.
got 3 nominations out there between 2 different sources.
Oh, okay.
So Baltimore Sun has me nominated for best acupuncturist, and that's actually my whole clinic because I have 3 associates with me, and best podcast for my podcast, which I didn't even know we were nominated. And then Baltimore Magazine has us nominated for best wellness center. So I'm
Oh,
pretty excited. Win, lose, or draw. It's all love. Maryland, as you know, loves Maryland. Baltimore takes care of Baltimore. As much as I'm trying to do for them, they do for us. So we love them.
I'm telling you, it's a love area. It's a
Mhm.
love area. People got to understand it. Dr. Tom, I am just elated that we have you here today because it is becoming more frequent. And my husband's not gonna like it, but anyway, he goes to therapy and they decided to do some cupping. And he was like, "Oh
Yeah.
my God, they did cupping today." I say, "Oh, I have a guest coming over about cupping." He's like, "Really?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "It's different when you see it because so many people were so concerned.
Yeah.
But no reason to be concerned about it because it is a form of traditional Chinese medicine. So
Yeah.
can you just give me a little bit more about the roots of like
Yeah, this is really where I'm passionate about it and why I wrote this. It was funny because this is something that spans all over the globe. It's been around for longer than acupuncture as a formalized system, right? So our first known writing, and we know it's even older than this, was 1515 BC in the Ebers Papyrus, right? It's an Egyptian scroll that talked about medical texts. We know that the Persians were using it, the Persian physicians.
Mhm.
Hippocrates wrote about it. But even before the silk trade route was the silk trade route, this had spread east, west, north, south, right? So what really kind of kicked me in the butt and said, no, I'm going to put pen to paper was when I was just Googling cupping because like, I'm weird. I love this stuff. I'm going to just do some outside stuff and see what people are doing. And I just clicked that images button on Google. And one of the first things to come up was how it was traditionally practiced in, I think it was Nigeria. They had goat herders sitting out in the field with water
What?
buffalo horns, and they attached the water buffalo horns, right? And anything that can kind of form a suction, anything that's closed and has one open end, you can use as a cup, right? So traditionally, water buffalo horns, sections of bigger pieces of bamboo that, they have that nodule in the bottom, so you can make a cup
Yes.
out of that. Clay pots, those were the first cups. One of the other things we talk about, like, how do I as a straight white male present acupuncture in its true light, right? We have this expression, when drinking water, remember the source. I need to remember I
Oh,
don't look like the medicine. It doesn't mean I can't perform it, I can't carry it on, but I owe it to everybody that came before me to do it as correctly as I can, to express it the way it should be expressed. And with cupping, we kind of have it being expressed so many different ways around the world.
yeah.
So what I felt was the right time because, Michael Phelps swam, he got out of the water in 2016, right? And the next day, the local news was in my office. They're like, "Hey, you live in Baltimore? You saw yeah, we do it here. Yeah, okay." So we did it, but it's funny because we've had a history of it here in the US forever as well. Gwyneth Paltrow in 2006 showed up to like a red carpet event with the cupping marks on her back. Some of her medical advice is okay, some of it's a little out there. But within that, even going back to the 60s and the 70s, right? Zorba the Greek was a famous movie in the 60s. There's a Roman Polanski movie about vampire hunters, and we don't have to talk about Roman Polanski. Uh, but there were cupping scenes in that. These were like people that had this like Eastern European or Southern European descent. The Godfather Part 2 has a scene where they do cupping on the infant Fredo on the kitchen table with the grandma. And one of the things that I loved, you mentioned the 2 schools I taught at. So I taught at one in Manhattan that's now called the Pacific College of Health and Science. When I was teaching there was a huge amount of international students, right? Everybody would come up to me and say, "Grandma used to do that." Right? Grandma
Wow.
used to do that. And there was variations of how they did it. So one of the cool things is when you talk to somebody about it, I had a Syrian patient saying that in Syria, they make the glass cups, but they would have a longer neck. So they would roll up a piece of newspaper, light one end, stick it
Yes.
in there, and then adhere that to create the vacuum, burn out the oxygen, create the suction. In the Chinese practice, in most cases, we have a little wand that's soaked in rubbing alcohol. You stick it in real quick, eats the oxygen, you put it down. My Italian patients would tell me that grandma used to put a big coin on their back with a little bit of cotton soaked in some kind of like high proof alcohol, light that on fire, and then throw the cup on top. Right. So the whole thing is keep the fire off the person,
Right, right,
but get the suction. Now, it seemed like such the right time for me to write this book because we can remove the fire completely from the equation. Now we
right.
have silicone cups that are as simple as like squishing it on and kind of burping out the air. We have
Yeah.
pump cups, which, to be honest, is a favorite of physical therapists. A lot of acupuncturists use them, a lot of massage therapists use them. I don't like them clinically. I think the glass ones feel better. I think using the fire is kind of cool. But within that, those are great options for home cupping because they're safe. You're not going to break any glass. You don't have to deal with the fire. You remove the two biggest dangers from cupping, right? And grandmas
Mhm.
all over the planet have been doing it with fire forever, but like, let's be safe and not burn somebody's house down. So the book talks about every different type of cup that's available on the market. I'm not asking you to buy them from me. You can go on eBay, Amazon, whatever. I give you the pros and cons, what I like about them, what I don't like about them, and then how to put them on. And then we talk about the different conditions you can treat. And when I'm saying conditions, I don't want people to think that they're going to cure all, right? That's not any medicine. Any individual practice isn't going to cure all, but those little, aches and pains for that little in your chest, why not do something like that before you have to go to the physician, before you have to go to the doctor? And part of this mission for me is let's take these traditional practices that really are evidence based, right? That's the buzzword, right?
Yeah.
Evidence based. What is, the practitioner's knowledge? What are those double blind, placebo controlled, studies
Mhm.
showing on your PubMed and your Cochrane database? And then what do
There
the
we go.
patients want, right? And when we look at cupping, and there's systematic reviews, probably about 3 or 4 in the last 5 to 6 years, they
Okay.
all say yes, it's definitely good for low back pain. It's definitely good for neck and shoulder pain. And what do patients have experience with? A lot of them, this is part of their family history. Isn't that great?
I love it because see, what you're talking about is there are people out there who understand or have seen what cupping is
Hmm.
like, but
Yeah.
then we have that other set who are like, "Can it be for me? What
Yeah.
how can I learn more about cupping?" So, what would you say to the person who says, "I see it out there. I see people getting the
Yeah.
cupping. I
Yeah.
know I could probably get the cupping, but can I do it at home? Or should I seek somebody who is more professional? Or help me understand." They're saying that
Yeah,
to you.
yeah, and that makes absolute sense. If something's a severe condition, yes, seek a licensed healthcare practitioner all the
Mhm.
time. And if you came to me and I saw something that was a red flag, believe me, I'm going, no, you got to get to the hospital. I'm not going to try and cure something that's out of my wheelhouse. I don't want to risk anybody's health. But most of these conditions that we're talking about, I don't want to call them subclinical, but they're not at a state where like you need emergency medicine. Those, hey, I worked out or something like that. These are safe areas to play with. How can we feel better? Now, if
Mhm.
you want to go to a professional and get it done first and see what it's all about, and
Yeah.
then try it at home, dip a toe that way, that's safe. If you're a little bit more gung ho, if maybe you're the family caretaker and you got kids running around and you want to pick
Yeah.
up a set of silicone cups on the cheap and try them out, you're not likely to hurt somebody. You have to really try to overdo it. People are afraid of those red marks. But to tell you the truth, that's a business card for me now. I'll get somebody coming in, they get the red marks, they go to the gym. Hey, where'd you get that done? Oh, the guy up the street. And it's really that impressive. I tell this story sometimes. My wife gets upset. We're in a Trader Joe's, and this woman that's walking by, and clearly she does CrossFit. She's a beast. She looks great. I'm not saying anything bad about her, but she's
Yeah.
wearing the sports bra and the short shorts.
Oh.
And I'm at one end of the aisle. This woman is walking past me. My wife's at the other end. My wife sees me looking at this woman's, assuming her backside.
Mhm.
um, and I'm like, wow. And my wife makes this face like, I'm going to kill you. And I'm like, no, 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 look at her back. And she's covered in cut marks. I think it was a little excessive, but clearly she's training hard. She wants to recover hard. So, she walks past my wife, and my wife was like, that was a close one. You're lucky. Like, because she knew I was, that's my world. Of course, I'm going to notice something like that. But it got me out of the doghouse. But
I'm glad you did.
at the same time, it's not just for those elite athletes. Like I said, your kids, they get a lot of upper respiratory stuff. It's flu season, it's allergy season, and you want to throw some cups on their upper chest or their upper back. You have the kid at home, you pick up
Yes.
the book, you read it through in a few hours. It's written to be accessible. I wanted it to be, what would grandma tell you if she was teaching you, in your living room?
I'm gonna go ahead and give a check mark and say, yes, it is
Mhm.
written with ease.
Yeah.
Ease in the sense so that if you are unfamiliar with cupping, you become familiar with cupping. And he takes you through a process, which is really nice. And I appreciate it. As I stated, I love reading. I haven't completed it because I was determined to really take my time to read it because I wanted to learn more
Mhm.
about cupping. And you give such good insights. I mean, I literally did a huge skim and I started reading like in depth a lot of the book. So let's go there.
Sure,
You
let's
have
do it.
this book. It's your second book. I wanna focus on cupping, but bring out the first book.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm gonna tell you what I did wrong in there. How about that? How many
Oh,
guests will tell you
really?
where they messed up? Yeah. Yeah. So in the first book, it's called You Got Sick Now What? It's 7 different methods from Chinese medicine to help you recover from colds and flus, right? And all of that is traditional based. There is science behind it. Everything I say does have some studies. I didn't include them in the book because, once again, I was trying to make it accessible. One of those methods is cupping, and I talk about fire cupping in there. And I had a publisher reach out to me and say, "Hey, we want to republish this, but you got to do a rewrite. And we want you to include what to do before you get sick as well." And I said, "Well, that sounds great." But they also had a problem with moxibustion, which is an herb that we burn on or near the surface of the skin. We have so many studies on that. And they're like, "You're playing with fire in there, quite literally. And we don't want you to be liable for talking about something that could burn
Yeah.
somebody or burn somebody's house down." And in my head, I'm like, when you're taught this in school and you're doing it for years and years, that's not even in your head. And I went, wow, that's kind of crazy. So the first book was an attempt to what my passion is now after, I think I started in 2001, but I started acupuncture school in 98, 97. After this quarter of a century, I want to share what I know and take the parts of East Asian medicine that are like home use, because like a lot of people don't realize a lot of this was done before you even went to see the physician. And I want to empower people to feel like they have some control over their health and it's more than just picking up an over the counter medication,
And
right?
that's
Like
why I
what
wanted
can you
yeah,
do at
that's the
home?
reason why I needed you to talk about it because that piqued my interest. I was like, "Hold on."
Yeah.
And I felt that it was a segue into why you wrote the cupping book.
Absolutely, absolutely. And to be completely fair, the cupping book is kind of like an expansion on the chapter I did on cupping. Like, let me give
Okay.
you everything I didn't give you in that one. Let's talk about all the
Right.
different ways to do it safer. I also have some outlines for other other full books based on the chapters I had in that one. And it really comes down to every culture. Every culture on the planet has traditional practices that have actual clinical value, right? We
Mhm.
we threw the baby out with the bathwater with modern
Mm.
medicine. And it's not that I'm not knocking modern medicine. We could spend hours talking about the healthcare system and things like that. But we don't realize, we forget this. My grandfather was a pharmacist. And when he passed, we found all of these old pharmaceutical bottles. Well, guess what? There were herbs in them. They were synthesizing. They were chemists. They were making these pills for people. Not him, but he was
Yeah.
collecting these ones that were like 200-year-old bottles. So things
Yeah.
like aconite, which is a Chinese herb that we use. He had a bottle of aconite. He had belladonna, right? It's a psychedelic. It's called belladonna because women would dot it in their eyes and it would cause their pupils to dilate, make them look more aroused. So all of these things, these traditional herbs that we had a long, rich history with. And that exists everywhere. It doesn't matter what continent you're on, what country you're in. These traditional practices were kind of tossed aside for modern medicine. Now we're having this kind of renaissance of that, right? Where we're going, no, cold plunges, there's science here, there's data here. Oh, saunas. Yeah, that makes sense, right? Thousands of years of sauna use. Okay, well, here's the science on it. So we always had this brain. As long as we're humans, we have these advanced brains and our minds are blown like, oh, it must have been aliens that built the pyramids. And it's like, no, we always thought like this. And when we were not distracted by the phone or the TikTok feed or something like that, chances are we were spending some deep time trying to solve some problems and understanding ourselves at a level that we just didn't have the terminology for. Right. So, the whole of Chinese medicine, we talk about qi, we talk about blood, we talk about these substances in our body. And, they go, oh, that's all made up. It's all nonsense. And no, what it was a brilliant, eloquent placeholder for physiological changes that they were observing
Yes.
before they had microscopes and x-rays and MRIs and Dopplers and CT scans and whatever else. To come up with that system is so eloquent, so refined. And they're not alone in that. That happened in
Mhm.
Africa, that happened in Russia, that happened in Europe, and we're acting like a Native American medicine, right? We're acting like we're at the acme of intellectual knowledge and prowess. And yeah, we can do amazing things with stem cells and epigenetics and all of this stuff that was there before, right? Psychedelics is having a renaissance. As long as human beings were picking up stuff and putting it in their mouth, we were using psychedelics. And now it's like, oh, look, we're scientists now. And it's like, no, no, the traditional shaman, the doctors, those people had this rich experience with it and understood it at a level that we can't get just from that right brain data. I'm
Mhm.
sorry, I kind of went on a tangent there, Dr. Jewel.
It's okay. It's
I
okay.
got I got a little passionate.
You've got to understand. I think people don't understand the
Mhm.
background of what you have. When you go
Yeah.
to school as an
Mhm.
acupuncturist, okay, you're a licensed acupuncturist. So
Yeah.
ultimately, the type of teachings that you
Mhm.
receive go into a huge well of
Mhm.
information
Mhm.
that dates back, like you stated, to the 1500s and beyond.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
so what you're doing is you're helping people understand why we have what we have today, because we wouldn't have what we have today if it wasn't for the medicine back then.
Yeah. Yeah. I said when drinking water, remember the source, right?
And you're bringing it back. And what's
Yeah.
happening is a lot of people who are in functional medicine, integrative medicine, are
Mhm.
now bringing it to the forefront and saying, hey, we can intertwine, contemporary medicine with integrative and functional medicine. And we just need to find out the best ways that fit certain people. There was something that you stated that was important, though.
Okay.
You
Mm.
stated, and this is one thing I want to let the public know.
Mhm.
Yes, you have to vet, you have to learn, you have to know who you are with and where you're getting your medicine from.
Yeah, yeah.
And when I say medicine, cupping is a form of medicine. Physical therapy is a form of medicine because they are working with your body and they're
Got it.
helping
Yeah.
you to become better. You stated that if you get to the practice and you see there's something that you know needs to have attention and you send them to the hospital,
Mhm.
that's a good practitioner. And a lot of people, I think what's happening, people are on an anti because they want to have the new medicine. They call it new, but it's not new.
Yeah.
They may not be seeking the appropriate people. And I
Yeah.
think that's one thing that's important. When you sit down and you have that first consultation with the person and you're sitting with them, I'm sure you go over various things with them to
Mhm.
let them know, hey, and that's what happens in a lot of meetings with if I deem something necessary, and it goes even with counselors and
Yeah.
psychiatrists, psychologists, and licensed clinical social workers. We can sit down and have a conversation, but if I deem something necessary for you to be sent to the hospital, then I'm going to stop here and call to get
You
assistance
gotta
for you.
go. You gotta
And
go
and
because
and I
we wanna roll out the
appreciate
most dangerous first.
and I appreciate that you said that because that is so important that people understand that where they go, make sure that
Mhm.
person understands evidence-based medicine. Make
Yeah.
sure that they know what deems I can't work on you, but you need to seek additional medical physicians for this and X because I'm licensed on XYZ. I have a wealth of knowledge. And like I used to see a neuromuscular physical therapist, and she knew every kind of muscle, every kind of nerve and was very careful. So you have to make sure you go to the right person. And that's exactly what Dr. Tom's trying to talk to us about. And I
Mhm.
appreciate that.
There needs to be a certain amount of honesty, and I'm not trying to knock physical therapists with this, but, like, how many hats can you wear? Right? You want to claim that you're best in all. And I see this evolution in physical therapy where it's that even seems to be changing. No, no, we want to do all of this. And it's like, well, why not just be good at this thing, right? You're known for this. Be good at this. Yeah, they do a brilliant job at one thing, but you have to know where that limit is, right? And I think a lot of
Yeah.
times people are hesitant as, maybe it's an ego check for the physician or the practitioner where it's like, ooh, I don't want to tell this person I don't know this or this is not something I can help them with. But we have to be honest, right? The honesty is going to lead to better outcomes for everybody, right? You're
Yeah.
going to look better because you sent that person to the right place.
Thank you. Thank you.
Why? Look, I'm going to tell you exactly where you need to go. And it
Yeah.
doesn't mean they can't continue to work with you. It's just I need you to make sure that you're not going to get hurt by something that I don't deal with, and that's a big
Yeah,
part.
I love that. And I think that's something that needs to be stated. I mean, it's really incredible. When I did go to physical therapy, I did for a
Mhm.
certain period of time because I really wanted to kind of
And that's
take
the
care of it before
commitment.
it got worse.
It's a therapy. Yes.
Get it taken care of before it got worse.
Yeah, yeah,
And,
yeah.
and she's like, "Oh, good. You're going to a neuromuscular masseuse."
Yeah,
And
yeah.
she was super trained. I'm telling you, she's incredible. And so with her working with me and the therapist, we were working on two things just to strengthen certain areas so that I wouldn't be put in a position where I wouldn't be able to
Yeah, move.
appropriately.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I could feel something and I was like, oh, let me get it before it happens.
That's honestly the best time to intervene, right? The first sign
Yeah,
you notice something, right? Sidestep a bigger problem down the road. And
yeah.
we as Americans, we as a go, go, go culture, we'll put tape over that check engine.
It's the truth. It's the truth. We will put the tape over it, and we can't do that. I do want to say that I attended a school where I got my doctorate. They focused on integrative medicine and functional medicine, and some of them ended up getting their license of acupuncture there as well because they do focus on a lot of that on top of the traditional medicine itself, the contemporary medicine itself.
Yeah.
So I was elated to just see your information and for you to reach out and give this to everyone. I want you to give them one key thing, okay,
Yeah.
that you would definitely say that someone who has that interest in going, you do the acupuncture detoxing as well. Y'all have all kinds of good stuff. What is one key thing that you would like to leave our listeners today with? Because we covered so much because you
Yeah.
have a phenomenal degree and license and you know your stuff. So, what is one key thing that you would love to leave our listeners with today?
Healthcare is so much more than that 6 month physical and the blood work comes back normal. The things we eat, the way we move our body, all of these things add to our overall health and give us vitality and longevity. And part of the reason I love Chinese medicine is there's so much of a focus on uh, lifestyle. Right now, there's a doctorate in lifestyle medicine, and I looked into the program. It's like, why not get a second doctorate, right? You're not crazy enough. And the program is literally like telling people that they need to sleep more, telling people that they need to drink more water. And it's like, this is how removed we are from our own health. You can do so much at home. You can do so much with a little bit of effort. And it's not just going to the gym. Yes, please go to the gym. I love the gym. But all of these practices we can take home and do.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. And I really appreciate that you stated that. One key thing that you even talk about is meditation. That is another piece of what you focus on as well. I think we hit so many points of views and so many areas of acupuncture today and cupping and the history that hopefully this will pique some people's interest to learn more, of course, about Charm City and about you, but to also understand the mechanisms of what a licensed acupuncturist can do, a person who understands Chinese
Mhm.
medicine. And you give that, which is really, really amazing. So I just want to say thank you so much, Dr. Tom, for just showing up here. We are so elated here on Cold Press Conversations. I know that we have explored many, many forms of nuances in regards to your practice, how we can delve deeper into the realm of understanding health and this form of literacy of understanding acupuncture, cupping, and be sure to check out both of his books, y'all. Okay, you've got to check out both of his books. He's talk about the author of "You Got Sick Now What," and then he talks about the book about cupping. You've got to check out both of his books. But I just want to say thank you so much for just this engaging conversation that we had, focusing on health and beyond. And so, yes, I just want you to take care of yourself. I want you to remember that this is about you and taking care of your health, always to your health and cognitive happiness. This is Dr. Jewel with Cold Press Conversations.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of Cold Press Conversations. If you love this episode as much as I did, I need you to head on over and subscribe so you never miss an episode. This is Dr. Jewel signing off to health and cognitive happiness.